Hello, I'm Lauren Green, and you're in the strategy room. The GOP candidates took a tone of civility in their final debate before a critical contest in states including Florida and Ohio. In a stark contrast from the last Republican debate, the candidates on Thursday tackled substantive issues like foreign policy and Social Security with minimal interruptions or personal attacks. Joining me now with debate analysis are Iona College professor Jeanne Zaino and New York Republican congressional candidate Pidot. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Jeanne, I want to get your take on this first. What is your opinion of last night's debate? What do you think of it?
I thought it was more substantive than the last few we've seen, and that was a good thing. I think the thing that struck me the most was, number one, how much Donald Trump is attempting to pivot to the center and try to get the Republican establishment and the party to support his candidacy, and also at the same time how he diverges with a lot of conservative Republicans on key issues. And I think because the debate was substantive, we got to see more of that than we have in the past. So whether you're talking about trade, whether you're talking about Cuba, whether you're talking about Social Security, certainly, these are issues where, you know, Republicans generally have a stand, and Donald Trump does not reflect that stance. So, you know, as he looks closer and closer to capturing this nomination, it could be a sign that the Republican Party itself is moving in that direction. And that, to me, struck me more last night. I think it was more substantive than it had in the last few debates.
Well, that's very interesting, Trump, Flip, because Trump does seem to be acting more presidential, more statesmanlike. Is it because he kind of knows it's very close now? He doesn't have to play the bully in the playground anymore, because is it the realization that perhaps, you know, this could be his, and he has to start acting more presidential, and there's a certain air of gravitas behind that?
Maybe. I take a slightly different view, where I think Trump is kind of happy to coast at this point. You know, this morning he was saying he thinks we've had enough debates. He said he wasn't even aware that there's a Salt Lake debate on the schedule. So it seems like he's sort of saying, you know, the die is cast. Let's tally the rest of the votes. And I think he'd be happy to do that and make the argument, even if he doesn't get a majority of delegates, that he's gotten a strong plurality and therefore he should be the nominee. What was ironic about it, and Jeanne, you're right, it was a more substantive debate than we've seen. So I think Trump maybe was sort of pulling back from engaging as directly with the other candidates. Perhaps Rubio and Kasich feel that the die is cast somewhat too, that they don't have a realistic path, but they want to do well in their home states. And yet, as everyone arguably was kind of disengaging a little bit from the back and forth, we wound up with a debate that was much more useful for voters and for viewers. So if only we'd been doing this for the prior dozen debates, we'd have a much better sense of where these candidates stand. It wouldn't be as entertaining. The ratings would be lower, but for me it would have been a more useful debate season.
You know, Jeanne, Rubio really did need a standout performance, and by all accounts, many people thought he won the debate. But did he, or what do you make of his performance last night?
I thought Rubio was the Rubio that his supporters thought they were going to see throughout this campaign, and certainly in the last few weeks he had changed into this kind of attack dog, and I think he rightly said the other day that he was embarrassed by some of the things he had said. Last night I thought he did a very good job, and I thought by sticking to the policy issues that he knows so well, he was able to draw this stark contrast between him and Donald Trump. He didn't need to attack Donald Trump on the size of his hands and all that other gibberish that had been going on.
He got off track.
Yeah, he got off track, and I don't think, though, to your point, I don't think it's enough to help him come back. I think at this point, Rubio is kind of on life support. He's going to stay in this through Florida, I assume, although some people are saying he may get out early. I think that's hard because they have early voting, so he's had people vote for him. I don't know how you withdraw before then. But I do think that, you know, if he wins Florida, maybe he stays in this thing. The polls suggest he won't. But I really do think that his campaign is on life support. He's got to be looking past this presidential campaign, you know, and thinking about his future. He's a very young guy. He should have a future in politics, and I think last night was about speaking to his home state and trying to resurrect whatever he can of his campaign and his political future.
You know, Flip, can't say enough that Rubio really does need to win Florida. If he doesn't win Florida, he's out of this, and he's really making a last stand, calling in a lot of reinforcements, trying to gain ground on Trump. He's got a slew of endorsements from very high political kind of establishment people. Is there any chance he's going to beat Trump in Florida now?
There's a chance. He's beating Trump in the early voting and the absentee, and in a lot of the prior contests we've seen that the late deciders have tended to favor Rubio over Trump. So The polls have been all over the place, showing 20-point lead for Trump or a 7-point lead for Trump, so I think really hard to predict. But it's certainly possible that Rubio wins, and that doesn't really help Rubio for the nomination. I think it helps Cruz, because that huge chunk of delegates from Florida, keeping them out of Trump's hands, makes it much more difficult for Trump to get to the 1237 by the nomination. But I think that's the right read on it, that this is more of a legacy initiative now for Rubio, not so much trying to carve out a path to this nomination, but thinking ahead to future cycles or perhaps a position in an administration.
That was Mitt Romney's strategy, really, is just to prevent Trump from winning, not to really elect Cruz or Rubio. It's just let's get Trump.
And Rubio, I thought, was just great in this last debate. The last two debates, I thought Rubio did great. Again, I think if he had that kind of performance in the past 12, where he was trying to figure out all these different strategies, he's sort of the jokester going after Trump, is he the level-headed guy. If he had been the Rubio was the last two debates, I think he'd be the front runner by now.
All right, I want to thank you so much, Flip and Jeanne, for being here. And for complete coverage of the 2016 race, check out foxnews.com. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.